If
Hey
I'm
everybody.
breaking,
Hi guys. Welcome to the live chat. We appreciate you stopping by. Sorry, a couple people didn't realize we were going live because of our delay here. But anyways, appreciate you coming and glad to see you. And let me make sure my external is muted because here we go. I'll just be chit-chatting to the masses twice. So anyway, you coming? We goodness, is my screen freezing on the outside? Hold on, let me look. No, I guess not. Okay, well anyway, we appreciate you coming. This week we're continuing our talk on the Oklahoma Prepper is going to talk about trauma scene assessment. He's going to talk about and a few other things like that we might come across in a everyday situation or in a Teotihuacan kind of situation. So we'll let him talk about that. We've decided to try to do a little segment each week. Oklahoma's going to give a little health tip, and then I'll give an essential oils tip. Starting, I will go ahead and give this tip. This is when crawlies in the hair tend to show up pretty badly. Is when school starts, kids are hugging each other, leaning against each other, stuff like that, especially the littler ones. But a lot of people think lice like clean hair, so just because somebody's got lice doesn't mean that they're not clean. It probably means they're very clean, actually. So here's a natural way. I've used this with my granddaughter. She contracted it while she was at the pool this summer. You just take about a quarter cup of olive oil or coconut oil or a natural oil that you have on hand, and then you add about 30 to 40 drops of tea tree oil, also known as Melaleuca alternifolia, and mix that in there, and then saturate their hair with it. If they have longer hair and they need more, that's fine, mix more. The idea is that lice don't like tea tree oil, first of all. They don't like the smell of it, so it's good to put about 20-30 drops in their shampoo daily, so that'll kind of help prevent them contracting it in the first place, hopefully. And another thing could be putting it in a spray bottle with water, about 30 drops in a small spray bottle, and then just spritzing them before they head out the door, their clothes and their hair. But anyway, I put that in my in my shampoo, and then whenever she has come over and she's had it, I've not contracted it. So good to know that. Once you mix up the stuff to put on their hair, like if they come home with it, you just saturate their hair with it and then wrap their hair in like press and seal, like that press and seal, or like plastic wrap or a shower cap, and make sure it's clipped tight. Wrap a towel around their neck because that oil will start to run down their neck. Make sure it doesn't go in their eyes. What you do is just let that sit on there about 45 minutes to an hour, so they can watch a TV show, read a book, whatever. They can play, do whatever they want, but it'll kill both the lice and the eggs. And then after you wash their hair out, you can use a lice comb, clean those out. I know this is not a fun topic to talk about, but with being back to school, inevitably somebody's going to end up having to deal with this. So you might as well know that and have that on hand, and get that Melaleuca alternifolia or tea tree oil in your medicine cabinets now.
They sell tea tree oil at Walmart. I mean, I've seen it, like Aussie.
Yeah, and it's so much safer than putting those lice treatments on their. Yeah, you don't want to put those chemicals on if you don't have to. They can cause neurological issues and all kinds of stuff. So this is a natural way to do it. It's safe, it's effective, and then you also want to wash their bedding. You want to take their any of their stuffed animals or anything like that and shove them in a big sack and then just put them away for about a month. That way, that's cutting off the oxygen, cutting off any food supply for them. Put them away, and then they'll be fine afterwards. Or I wash stuffed animals.
Are you saying people should suffocate stuffed animals?
Suffocate stuffed animals.
Okay.
I'm all for it. But anyway, that's my tip of the week for essential oils. It's really important those nipped in the bud right away, because if they're scratching, they can scratch sores on their head, which can cause infection. The lice themselves are just annoying, but they can cause infection from scratching and getting sores on their head. So
I think
good to go ahead and have that.
I think I've got a good graphic for your essential oils tip. I'm going to screen share this one.
Okay, I'm scared. Let me put you up.
I'm ready.
I'm going to present you.
Can you see that?
Remember, this is G-rated chat.
I'm looking.
Yes, it's. Can you see it?
Yes, you're mad scientist.
Yeah, essential oils tip.
There you go.
You know what was really cute? I watched Deadliest Catch last night or night before, and they were talking about the men. It was the guy on the Wizard, and he's so funny, and he goes, listen, we got to protect our skin. We get really dry, and nothing's better than tea tree oil. And I just thought, and Kevin yells, oily, my husband, so it's funny.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
I'll send that to you if you want.
That's cute. Very cute.
I think I know I've got the picture of the septic company's thing on my cell phone, but I'll have to email it to myself so I can get that to you later.
And I don't know if Oklahoma has that health tip for this week yet. We were just discussing it before we went on air, so.
Oh, the beverage of the day. Beverage tip is the Glenlivet Scotch.
Single malt Scotch.
Yes, single malt, 12 years, and this is my, I think I've had it before on the show. This is my Crystal Skull 2-ounce shot glass. So.
Oh.
Joy.
Cheers.
Oklahoma?
My health tip of the week. A cap full of apple cider vinegar with the mother every day in a glass of water. That will help with all kinds of health issues, as well as lose weight. Apple cider vinegar is absolutely a miracle.
Regular distilled vinegar isn't good enough. It has to be apple cider.
It has to be apple cider with the mother, organic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy to make. It's so easy to make. Rain Country Homestead has a great video on how to make it. You can find videos everywhere on YouTube. You need to go and make it yourself. Once you get the organic kind with the mother in it, then you can a little bit of that to make your own. Super simple out of apple peels. So very simple to make, a lot cheaper than buying it. Absolutely. Righty.
All right.
Hey, Finian, and hey, Jared. Welcome. And Eye of the KI, and who else is out there? We Tree Bonsai.
Oh,
Bonsai!
Bonsai!
There's a few people out there watching. I'm able to type in chat. As soon as we figure out what the problem is, we'll hopefully have that situation taken care of. I don't want to give a
with also out there. Sandy's Passions. Hey, Sandy. All right, so I wanted to tell y'all something before we get started on the trying to get my outer deal taken care of. Wasn't wanting to scroll down. But anyway, you are my Facebook friend, you know that posted a story about a guy that's about 20 minutes from here in a neighboring town who plotted to blow up a bank in Oklahoma City. He was a Facebook friend. I didn't really know him in person. He had contacted me on Facebook. So, yeah, kind of a little bit frustrating, but you know, I have mixed feelings about this because, you know, they knew that he was mentally ill, the FBI. They provided the vehicle, fake explosives, schizophrenic. So that it's kind of frustrating, instead of getting him some help, that they tried to help.
Well, what's going to happen probably is he'll go to court and he'll get a public defender who'll say, plead mental instability, and then he will get his mental health. And because it's the sure way out. It's either plead mental, you know, defect or go to jail. He's already been,
I believe it was, he was deemed, or 2013 or 2015, he was deemed mentally unfit. So he's already
the help he needs.
So I prayed that he does, but they should have went ahead and tried to get the help for him prior.
Well, now he won't have a choice. He'll have to get it.
I feel really bad for his family and for him, honestly, because, but I just want to say that we do have a personal responsibility. When we're doing our rants, when we're doing our things like that, we need to remember that there are people such as this out there. So we need to be careful, responsibility to try to help not instigate people like this. You know, it's important really to try to help speak about love and supporting one another and stuff than trying to be more divisive, is what I'm trying to say. I'm sure this guy, you know, he was spewing rhetoric that he's heard from all sorts of people. And I'm not saying we don't have a right to those opinions and a right to express them. I just think we need to be cautious about how we express them so that we don't instigate people like this. I'm not saying that they wouldn't go out and do it anyway, but, you know, certainly I think that we do have a moral responsibility to be cautious about that. I mean, for anybody watching that doesn't know me, you know, I want you to know I prep for if something like that were to happen, something major were to happen, natural disasters, I don't care what it is, worst case scenarios even, but I would never look forward to that happening. I would never support somebody causing something like that to happen. I don't want to see a civil war. I don't want to see any of that. So I would never encourage that, promote that. I'll defend myself and my home and my property and my family if I need to, but, you know, I'm not going to instigate something like that like he was hoping to do. And I don't condone that. So if you're somebody watching that does, then you can go somewhere else. I love you, but you can go somewhere else. I don't want that kind of rhetoric around here. Anyway, so I will thank everybody for coming on to the panel. It's good to see everybody. Glad to have Oklahoma Prepper back. Glad to have Squib back. Welcome back, Mouse Toes and Mr. Hawaii Volcano Squad. You guys, their links are, those that have links, all but Squid, is in the description box below for both YouTube and Steemit if they have a Steemit account. Well, actually, I need to add Mouse Toes' Steemit account. She hasn't really, she's done a couple of posts and I didn't realize it until after the fact. So I don't have all of that over there. I don't have hers on here yet. But we'll let Oklahoma Prepper pick up. Does anybody else have anything else to say on anything before Oklahoma takes charge of the discussion?
I just wanted to say that although it's still in beta, there's a new Steemit's got this new thing they're trying to replace YouTube eventually. It's still in beta. They can't post a lot of my 1080 HD videos, but it's called DTube. So, but there's no censorship. There's no, you know, board of YouTube censors that, you know, will, you know, demonetize or take things out of search engines. But it's still brand new, and but they pay you off in Steam, and you have to have your own Steemit account. But it's called DTube, so check it out. That's it. Proceed with the Oklahoma Prepper medical segment. I've been looking forward to it.
I'd like to add to what Oily said. You know, I prep for basic things. I live in a hurricane zone. I live rurally. We've lost water on our well. Things happen, ice storms, and just being ready, just like being in the October 2015 South Carolina aquapocalypse. We could not have gotten out of our driveway for 5 to 7 days. If we could have, we're surrounded by water and on a raised house. There was nowhere to go. Nothing was open. So just being prepared and that we can eat some good food, still have some candy, and enjoy waiting out the situation at hand. So.
Speaking of good food, macaroni and cheese.
I knew you were going to do that.
He's got a block of mac and cheese mouth toes.
I stopped at the grocery store on the way home, and I purposely bought 2 boxes of macaroni and cheese.
Just may as well chew on fake food. I mean, get some American cheese slices, too, while you're at it. And eat the plastic.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, now, Hawaii and I might just come down to South Carolina and see if you'll make us a home-cooked meal.
I would. And you would go home and set those boxes of garbage on fire and begging for my macaroni and cheese in a casserole and everything.
Well, I got an 18. Like I got like a case of 18 at Costco macaroni and cheese. So shit hits the fan. It's hot food, and believe it or not, it's a comfort food for a lot of people. They just got.
Wheat Tree says eat the box while you're at it. That'll give you some roughage.
All right. Well, Oklahoma, I think, is ready to continue on his discussion that we had from 2 weeks ago. So let's see what he has to say.
Yes. Can everybody hear me good?
Hey, turn up your volume just a little bit more because other people.
Yeah, it sounds like you're talking through a tunnel, but go ahead.
You were very
Okay.
low when we first came on. That sounded good. Say hello, testing.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Got it. Much
Good.
better.
Good deal. Gotcha.
So, first off, I want to give a special shout out to a special family in Guam. I want to ask for some prayers for them down there because they really are very important to me. And last thing I want is anything to happen to them. So today we're gonna start off. We're gonna go ahead and finish up on some of the medical assessment. We're gonna go ahead and start another section, and we're gonna cover some of the stuff that we're gonna most likely come across in an emergency situation, such as shootings. Or, if we're out hunting and fishing or hiking, we accidentally get shot by someone that thinks that we're game. So the first thing I want to talk about, there's going to be penetrating trauma is an injury caused by an object that passes through the skin or the body tissue, but also or other body tissue also has characteristics that may help in determining the extent of the injury. These wounds are classified by velocity or speed of the item that caused the injury. Low velocity items are those that are propelled by hands, such as knives and other pokey, sticky items. Low velocity injuries are usually limited to the area that was penetrated, and always remember there could be multiple wounds where the blade may have been moved inside the victim, so there could be damage to multiple vital organs.
Are bows and arrows are arrows considered low velocity?
They are medium velocity.
Mm-hmm.
My next one. Medium velocity wounds are usually caused by handguns and shotguns. Some forcefully propelled items, such as an arrow launched from a compound bolt or a ballistic knife, will cause greater velocities than the same item propelled by hand.
A ballistic knife, that's just how it opens, right? I mean, that just refers to the opening mechanism. How does that change the speed?
Bullets propelled by high-powered assault rifles. High-powered or assault rifles travel at a high velocity. Medium damage and high-velocity injuries can cause medium damage almost anywhere in the body, and bullets cause damage in two different ways. This is something very important to mention. These two different ways that bullets cause damage. The first one is from the bullet itself, which is the entry from the flesh into the body. So the bullet itself will damage anything in its path. The damage depends on the size of the bullet, its path, or whatever its fragments break up into smaller projectiles. Strike. With the fragments taking different paths, the path of the bullet, once inside the body, is unpredictable, and I'll get to that here in just a second. Since it may be deflected by bone or other tissue onto a totally different course, there is often damage to organs and tissues that are not in a straight line between the entrance and exit wound. So what they mean by that is smaller velocity bullets like a 22, 25, stuff like that, even 9mm, depending on the type of jacketing, can basically, what will happen is if you're standing in front of someone or if someone's standing in front of you or another victim and they get shot at a horizontal plane directly into the body, what could happen is that bullet is going to strike bone, tissue, organs, and that bullet is going to deflect. It's very, very crucial.
Time, brother. Your sound is getting squirrely again.
Okay, 1 second.
There you are. You came right back to my top pocket.
All right.
Perfect.
So what can happen is, and I do want to warn you right now because this is a little bit gruesome, but what's going to happen is that bullet is going to strike different objects inside your body, different organs, bones, and you can get shot at a point blank, or you can get shot from in front of you standing up, and that bullet is going to enter your abdominal cavity or your chest and can end up coming out of your shoulder or your leg just by all the other organs and stuff that it hits. Now the next way of damage is pressure-related damage, also known as cavitation. Cavitation is the temporary cavity caused by the pressure wave. If you are not sure what cavitation is, then look at a video of somebody shooting ballistics gelatin with a rifle or a pistol. That huge bubble that's created inside that ballistics gelatin is cavitation.
Yeah, there's a great channel for that called on YouTube called Shooting the Bull, and he tests all kinds of ammo through ballistic gel, and you could learn a lot.
So basically, it's cavitation. It's causing a cavity or a big hole, or a pocket inside.
Yes, it's cavitation. This means that the energy of the bullet, as it enters the body, is going to create a pressure wave that causes a cavity to causes a cavity considerably greater than the size of the bullet, like kind of a mini explosion. And this cavity is temporary, but will do quite a bit of damage. For
example, some bullets, when they strike you, they'll enter and they'll make a half-inch hole coming in, but they'll blast a 3 or 4 inch hole going out, depending on where it hits you, what type of, if it's a hollow point, how the hollow point is cut at the factory to make it open up like petals on a flower. And if it's traveling through certain tissue, it's going to have more of that pressure. And when it comes out the other side, that pressure is going to follow through like the wake on a race car or on a tractor trailer. And it's going to force more out because of the shape of the bullet. The bullet is going to go from rounded in the front to actually folding open. And think of an umbrella that's opened up but laying on the ground. That's how much it opens up. And that shock wave will help increase that, and it'll actually do a lot more damage coming out than going in.
That is correct. So next thing we're going to talk about is treating these injuries, treating puncture wounds, treating impaled objects, and possibly bullet wounds. Which there's really not too much we can do without surgery to treat these wounds, but we are going to talk about a couple of ways to be able to treat these puncture wounds. First of all, you want to make sure that, like I said before, the scene is safe. You want to make sure that the threat is not there, and that you really want to make sure that you're safe. First thing you're going to do is you're going to assess the victim and find out where the wound is in relation to on the patient's body. The first and the next, what you're going to do after that is you're going to, if there's significant bleeding, you're going to want to control bleeding. A lot of people will say look for an exit wound. That is not necessarily something that we should worry about, because there's, not much that we can do to take the victim into surgery to do this. Basically, the most important thing you can do is determining what part of the body that the victim has been or shot in. We're going to try to maintain as much direct pressure in that area as possible. And remember, this is stuff that we should really take into consideration in everyday situations, like I said, hunting, fishing, or hiking accidents. So you can try to save your friend or just a fellow hiker or fisherman in case the accident did occur. So you're going to want to make sure that the patient stays as immobile as possible. Let the patient move around, control bleeding as much as possible, and try to prevent shock. And like I said before, to prevent shock, if the patient starts to get really cold and their blood pressure starts to get erratic, then you want to lay the patient down flat and try to cover them up and keep them warm. And if you have oxygen, provide them with oxygen. Do not try to ice the wound, because that actually, on a situation like this, does not actually do any good. Can do more damage than good.
So you're going to want to put on gloves before you apply pressure and get all that blood all over you, though, right?
Yeah. You're going to want to. Of course, you're going to have your body substance isolation precautions.
Yeah, he already went through that last week. Yeah.
Well, thought I'd add that in there.
Yeah. So when you're treating with puncture wounds, you want to absolutely use caution when caring for the wound. An object that appears to be embedded only in the skin may actually go all the way into the bone. In such cases, it is possible to the patient may not have serious pain. Even an apparently moderate puncture wound may cause extensive internal injury with serious internal bleeding. What appears to be at first a simple shallow puncture wound may be only a part of the problem. And that is a very good point to bring up. When I worked in Tulsa for EMSA, a company called EMSA, Emergency Medical Services Authority, this company was contracted through the city of Tulsa. I went on multiple gunshot wound calls, and none of them were the same. However, some of them absolutely looked like it was a scrape on the skin. I did not treat it as a scrape on the skin. I did treat it as a gunshot wound. And sure enough, I didn't believe it. But, okay, hang on a second. Alright, do I sound better? Some of these gunshot wounds may not look very dangerous at all, but are absolutely life-threatening. The in particular that I'm talking about was a gunshot wound to the neck. The victim had just what appeared to be a simple scrape, and we took C-spine precautions, took him to the emergency room, and got x-rays, and were able to determine that there was in fact a bullet lodged into the back of the victim. So just because, what you see on TV is not what you get when you're dealing with real life situation.
I wanted to add one thing that, if I could. There's a local thing happened on the Big Island where somebody that worked from Google didn't like his rental deal, and the landlord sent his son down to deal with them, and the guy from Google shot the kid with an arrow. And basically, when the ambulance showed up, they didn't try and remove the arrow. They took him to the hospital, the emergency room, with the arrow still in him.
Yep.
Right. Don't ever pull the projectile.
No.
Whatever it is, don't ever pull it out.
Yeah, if the grid is up, take him to a hospital and let them do it.
That may be putting pressure on a vessel that is busted and keeping it from bleeding out. So you keep that in there. You pack around it, try to keep that object from moving, tape it down solid, do your other precautions, and get them.
That's what they did on the Big Island. The ambulance did it, so they knew what they were doing.
Oklahoma made a good point. Remember after Ronald Reagan was shot, got himself into the car, into the hospital, raised his arm? You can be fine for a little bit of time, but like Squib said, you don't know where the heck that thing's going inside, what kind of bone fragments, everything else are around, and it can change really quick.
The victim is not the best judge of the best course of action most of the time.
Yeah.
And just, I would say anytime there's a puncture when treated as a life-threatening situation.
Yeah. Okay, Frank, go ahead. Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Sorry, I was trying to get all my volumes muted while y'all were on, so I could try to reset my volume. So,
okay.
All right. So that brings me to another point when y'all were talking about getting shot with an arrow. That was going to be my next impalement or shooting situation. When a person has a puncture wound, such as a stab, a victim, or a victim that has been shot with a bow and arrow, or even something as simple as a tree branch fell and punctured the victim, you do not want to pull out the object, move the object, do anything to disturb the object. In any situation, you're going to expose the wound area, cut away clothing, take great care not to disturb the object. Do not attempt to lift clothing off of the object, as you may accidentally move it. Long impaled objects may have to be stabilized by hand during exposure. Bleeding control and dressing. Control profuse bleeding by direct pressure if possible. Be careful not to position your gloved hands on either side of the object and exert pressure downward. Do not attempt to do not put pressure on the object. Apply pressure with great care if the object is a cutting edge, such as a knife or a shard of glass. Otherwise, you may cause additional injury to the patient or victim. And be careful not to injure your hands. Make sure you do not injure yourself when you're dealing with this type of situation, because you can easily cut yourself on a shard of glass or a knife. While continuing to stabilize the object and control bleeding, have another assistant place several layers of bulky dressing around the injury site so that the dressings around the objects on all four sides. And a better visual for this type of dressing is kind of like a log cabin stack. You want to put two parallel sticks on each side at parallel, and then horizontal, parallel, and horizontal, kind of like a log cabin, how a log cabin is framed up. Manual stabilization must continue on until the stabilizing of the dressings are secured in place, and have another partner begin by placing folded universal pads or some other bulky dressing material on opposite sides of the object. For long-range objects, folded towels, blankets, or pillows may have to be used in place of dressing pads. Remove your hands from under the pads, place them on top, and apply pressure as each layer is placed into position. The next layer of pads should be placed on opposite sides, again, just like the log cabin method. Place them on top, and okay. Continue the process until as much of the object as possible has been stabilized, and it does not. You don't have to create a 6-inch tall stabilization dressing because it's just eventually it's just going to get useless. Secure the dressings in place. Although adhesive strips may hold the dressings in place, blood around the wound site, sweat, and body movements may not allow you to use tape. Triangular bandages folded into strips or cravats can dress in tying one above and below the impaled object. Cravats should be wide, no less than 4 inches in width. Rigid splint.
Sorry, losing you again.
Yep, your
Okay,
sound went.
One second.
And you make a good point about impalement. There used to be a series on like odd stories from the ER, and it was 2 construction workers who had 2 shared pieces of rebar went through one and into the other, and how they had to move them, and how he was talking about packing the bandages on each side, to kind of even out the pressure. And you'll see that if you ever come up on something, on people with an issue on the side of the road or a stabbing, they're basically just trying to shove stuff in the hole as opposed to dealing with the area in a larger rectangle or whatever, and all the difference that can make. But yeah, it's very interesting, like spear fishing in the ocean, and you nail somebody else, and I just can't imagine being the guy in the ambulance, as we call it in the South.
Yeah,
Not the ambulance, the ambulance.
In Hawaii, taxi. Now that I recall, in that when the guy got shot in like that Kalapana area I was telling you about, it wasn't with a crossbow or an arrow, it was with a spear gun, because spear guns are like considered fishing implements. So you used to be able to buy them at Sports Authority, which closed, or at Walmart, and they you can still buy them, but they're like in a special window, like it was a closed off locked area, like it was a gun or something, and they don't like to play with them. But there was a mad rush on spear guns after that on the island, because you don't need a permit to buy one like you do if you get a handgun, and everybody just wanted one all of a sudden. It was like they all disappeared off the shelf very fast. Everybody wanted a spear gun. It's crazy.
Somebody hijacked a DC-10 once with a hammer and a spear gun.
Shut up.
Yeah, it was a FedEx DC-10, and he brought it on board, and they didn't think anything of it. They just thought he was a fisher. He was fishing. They have what they call a jump seat. That's like an extra seat, and they'd let their employees hop a ride on a cargo plane. And he was a disgruntled pilot, and he decided he was going to take out the crew of 3 with the hammer and the spear gun, and then turn the plane around and fly it into the Memphis airport where FedEx headquarters is. And they fought him off.
This was a Google employee.
Gosh.
So be careful if you work with anybody who likes spearfishing.
Yes, good point. Also, when we were used to fly business class back and forth, like Spain or wherever we're going, my husband went and lived, and I had to go for a conjugal because I always had to be a Middle Eastern country, you know, just for the adventure of it all. They started coming out with the plastic knives. They used to have really good food. They would have like hot fudge sundaes, you know, up in Delta business or first class. And then we come back and you've got these little dull, I mean, you have better knives, plastic knives that you buy at your local grocery for a picnic with toddlers than we had on there. And I thought, you know, a simple ink pen, you know, you just get up behind a pilot, a stewardess, anything, and get ready to stab it in her. I'm thinking, seriously, we have to use basically a dull knife because we could hurt somebody with it on an airplane. Ink pens.
Well, they were banning for a while. They were banning fingernail clippers, you know, and it was kind of crazy. But I think they stopped doing that. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, Mouse Toes, thanks for sharing the reason for your trip. That we really didn't need to know that.
That's the only reason a Southern woman goes to the Middle East.
So you were doing conjugal visits on random men in prisons in the Middle East?
No, I had a conjugal with my husband, you idiot.
Oh.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm just kidding about if somebody you work with spearfishes. I catch crap all the time because people know I have guns and I have no intention of doing any harm. But you guys are bringing up a good point. Anything can be used as a weapon. Anything.
Yeah, spearfishing in Hawaii and fishing in Hawaii is like, you know, a native, you know, kind of like, you know, tradition going back hundreds of years. So. Nobody's going to ban spearfishing. Go ahead.
Oklahoma. Go ahead. We'll try not to interrupt you for a while.
Sorry, Oklahoma.
I know how easy it is to lose train of thought when you get interrupted. So everybody.
If my mic starts to go out again, just interrupt me and just kind of deviate for a little bit so that I can get my mic set back up. But securing the dressings in place. Let's see. Okay. Using a thin, rigid splint can be used to push the crevettes under the patient's back, such as a small what kind of thing? A paint stir stick, like for example, like the example I gave yesterday to help with immobilization. That can help to push the dressings under, such as if the patient has a penetrating object in the abdomen.
Oh.
Yeah, your network is like hashing up.
Again?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay. All right, and make sure, like I said, again, care for shock. Watch out for shock. If you have oxygen available, please place the victim on the oxygen and cover them up with a blanket. Just kind of be there and make sure that the patient is going to be okay, because shock can be the #1 killer in situations like this. And if a patient is impaled through the cheek, a dangerous situation exists by foreign objects. First, the object may go into the oral cavity and create an airway obstruction, or it may stay impaled in the cheek wall, but work its way free and enter the oral cavity later. Second, when the cheek wall is perforated, Bleeding into the mouth or throat can be profuse and interfere with breathing. Always remember that any type of injury above the heart or even in the head area will always bleed a lot more dramatically than if you say, for example, you had the same type of cut on your finger. So always be aware of blood getting into the patient's mouth or the victim's mouth. It may make the patient nauseated and induce vomiting. External wound care will not stop the flow of blood into the mouth. If you find a patient or a victim with an object impaled into the cheek, just make sure, if you absolutely this is one of the type of situations where you may actually have to remove the object from a patient's cheek. And what you're going to do when you get into a situation like that is you want to, from the inside of the mouth, if the object is in and out through the cheek, through and through, you want to stick your finger inside the victim's cheek and push outward, not inward, and do not pull the object out. Examine the wound site. Gently inspect both internal and external cheek and the inside of the mouth. Use your pen light or any other flashlight to look inside the victim's mouth, and if needed, carefully use your glove fingers to probe inside the cheek to determine that the object has not passed or has passed through the cheek wall. This is best done with a dressing pad to use to protect your fingers and any wound you touch, because if this was an arrow, then the broadheads of an arrow are razor sharp and can penetrate your gloves. Remove the object if you find a perforation and you can see both ends of the object. Pull it out in the direction that it entered the cheek. Okay, so I was wrong. I apologize. It's giving me two different descriptions. If this cannot be easily done, leave the object. Okay, it's telling me to do two different ways depending on the size of the object.
What book are you reading from?
This is my EMT book.
Okay.
This is my $400 EMT book.
So is that something you had to take in your course to qualify for EMT?
Yes, this is our textbook. This is our college book. So don't twist the object, and if you find perforation, but the tip of the object is also impaled into a deeper structure, such as the palate or the jaw, stabilize the object and do not try to remove it. Position the patient or the victim and make certain that you allow for drainage. Possibility of spine injuries may require that you immobilize the head, neck, and spine. Then tilt the patient's head, tilt the patient's and spine on a board as a unit. So you may have something like, for example, if you're in a tornado damaged area and you come across a victim that has something shoved into their mouth, a door is always something good to help use as a backboard. And when they mean transfer the patient as a unit and the spine as a unit, you want to make sure that no part of the patient's body or the victim's body is moving, is not moving in the same direction the rest of the body is. The entire body has to be moved as if it were one long piece of 2x4. You're just turning over. Nothing is twisting. Nothing is bending. Monitor the patient's airway. Once, if able to, once the object is removed or stabilized, be prepared to suction as necessary. More than likely, you won't have a suction kit, so make sure you have something to try to absorb the blood in the cheek, if possible.
Would one of those bulb syringes work? Like a
Bulb syringes will work. Anything will work. Anything will help. It may not be perfect. It may not get the maximum amount
right.
Of fluid
Yeah.
out. But anything you can do will help. Yes, anything you can do will help. So dress.
Night burn.
So dress the outside of the wound using a pressure dressing and bandage, or apply a sterile dressing and use direct pressure to control bleeding. You may also be able to place the gauze on the inside of the cheek to help control bleeding into the mouth, but only if the patient is alert and cooperative.
Can I give a real life scenario of that, Oklahoma, on how this could happen to anybody at any time? Remember your mom always tell you don't run with scissors, right? Don't run with that popsicle. And
absolutely.
My girlfriend Doreen was running up my driveway and had a popsicle, and she tripped and fell, and the popsicle stick went so far into her, I don't know if it's your palate, way back at the top of your tongue, at the back of your tongue, right before the thing that flows down and makes you vomit. Okay, if you touch it. And then it pierced into her tongue. And I was like, right? Now I am laughing so hard until she stands up and goes, and I have to go get my mother. And my mother grabs her face and yells, "We told you not to run with popsicles." And then the problem was, you know how when you can't swallow anymore, you begin to gag?
Oh.
Yeah, so something that simple. We're talking about sinus cavity, but anything that can happen like that. And the emergency of that, and my mom having to wrap her finger in gauze, because, of course, once she gets the popsicle stick cut, she bites down immediately, and somehow my mother knew she was going to bite her. You know, the importance of protecting your finger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. And toothbrushes, kids, I've seen like stores. Remember back whenever they used to have that show Emergency 911,
Yes.
You know, where they would, you know, when 911 first came out, and they would have different shows telling about real events that happened. There was a little kid that was running with a toothbrush and jabbed it in the back of their throat, straight back.
Ugh.
Straight back of their throat. And there was several where kids were running with scissors and did stuff like that. So yeah, it's doesn't take much, and then it just happens just like that. So yeah, you have to. Yeah, BC or Weetree wants to know if she's still a friend. Probably not after Mouse Toes laughed at her.
Yeah, no, bless her heart. She died years later. You know, you'd put pennies on a train track and let them smush them. She got hit by a train.
Uh-huh.
So dumber than a bag of hammers. Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
oh my
God. Nobody was surprised when we're like, you know, Doreen died, and they're like, really? How'd she hurt herself? I mean, there's just some people who are dangerous. But I was like, people are like, I can't believe you hang out with the dumb girl. And I'm like, well, I mean, my mother's like a freaking medic. Somebody needs to care.
Oh my God.
You know, you just love somebody who's just a danger to themselves. She got run over by a dang train. I mean, smush it too. Stupid.
So, we're getting close to having to finish up. We've only got about 7 minutes, but you don't want to jerk anything out, a foreign object out, if it goes through, right? You want to control bleeding if you can.
And just so my question that I wanted to ask was, which type of bandage is a chest seal? And you were saying you only apply pressure to the entrance wound and not the exit, because I mean, I think you could apply pressure to 2 spots at once, but.
Okay. Can you ask that question again?
chest seal is what kind of a bandage? And when there's if somebody's got a gunshot wound, do you apply pressure just to the entrance wound and not the exit wound?
You apply pressure to both. You want to stop the bleeding, period. You apply pressure to both wounds. Chest seal is not necessarily a bandage. It is more of a tool to help with That's a hard one to explain because I'm trying to kind of.
Well, it was like this. Everybody said I had to have a chest seal in my medical kit, so I got some, and so I just wanted to know what is it exactly I got and how to use it.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, what happens is if you come across an individual with a puncture wound to the chest, and you see that chest wound is bubbling and gurgling, that's when you want to apply the chest seal to that wound, because what is happening is there's air moving in and out of that wound and can possibly collapse the lung. So, and I'll let you Google a sucking chest wound because I don't really want to explain it. It's kind of graphic, but that'll give you a good idea as to what to look for, and you'll know exactly that's the time to use a chest seal. And depending on what kind you have, may have the entire seal may have some type of adhesive to it, or maybe just the outer ring may have a adhesive to it. So just kind of that's something that you'll want to Google and see if you can handle it. Google the images and kind of look at it, and you'll kind of get an idea as to how to tell when someone has a sucking chest wound, and how to kind of place the chest seal on there, because all chest seals are very different. And there's one last thing that I wanted to talk about, but we don't have enough time, and it's one of the most important things, and I do not want to rush it. So next week, for about 5 minutes, it's only going to take about 5 minutes. I want to go over that in great detail because it is a puncture wound to the eye.
Oh.
So yeah, it's going to be very dramatic, very gruesome, but it is one of the most important things that you can have to treat. So that being said, I'm going to wrap my stuff up for now, and next week I'll go over it for just about 5 or 10 minutes just to cover that in detail, and that should have punctures, and that should actually cover everything.
Do we need to find a demonstration victim who's willing to be shot through the eye?
We'll see. We'll see if we can find one.
All right.
Nothing
Cheers.
is grosser than an eye injury. There is nothing grosser.
Are you volunteering HVS?
No, I'm not volunteering for anything. I already did. I know you're willing to shoot me, Mouse Toes, but I'm not volunteering. I'm go ahead.
Jay Watterson, 69.
Why? What did he do?
He's just sassy.
Oh, always.
I just wanted to pop a cap in him.
Oh.
All right, Oily.
If you go around shooting your viewers, you're going to have less viewers. I mean,
they're Oily's viewers, not mine.
Oh, wow.
I see how you are. Sacrifice my viewers.
I can take out Oily's people. Oh, God.
Okay, so we'll finish that topic up next week. I'll think about what I want to talk about next week. I want to change it from like health to something else for a while, because we've been on health for a while, and I don't want everybody to just like turn into, get bored with this. But health is one of the main things, just accidents or infection, things like that are what take out most people. So in a poo-poo hits the fan scenario, it's not, and really most of it's due to cleanliness or just
Sanitation, infections.
Not being able to clean a wound, infections, things like that. So that's why we wanted to cover these topics more in depth, because it's really important to me. But I think we need to change it over to something else for a little bit. So if you think of something that you would love for us to discuss, if I have the information, I will be happy to do that. So I guess that's it for this week. Thank each of you for coming. I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Oklahoma, for presenting the information to us. I know it can be complex for a lot of people to understand. Like, it's hard to convey it.
I learned a lot from each one of these. This was great.
Yeah. It's hard to convey it for somebody to picture it in their head if they've not seen it before, is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, it's good. You need to Google and look up sucking chest wounds. You need to look up how to use a halo chest seal. Don't just rely on somebody, look up several videos on different kinds of chest seals. I said halo because I've got one sitting right here.
Yeah, I think we have the same kind. I just wanted to share this with Mouse because she was interested in Kalapana. So here's this picture in a cabin, a cheap cabin on the lava just across from the ocean. It's for $37,000 bucks. But
wow.
It's like very minimal.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And it's right along the ocean. And there will be thousands of Japanese tourists every night walking along to where the lava flows into the ocean with flashlights trying to see the lava flow into the ocean. So.
You know it. The Japanese are Hawaii. And thank you, Wee Tree Bonsai. And everybody say a little prayer for BC. In case we don't see him again, he's tried hooking up a new computer. Okay, so we hope he doesn't get it wrapped around his neck and stuff.
All right. We'll say a little prayer for you. And thank each of you for coming. For some reason, I lost being able to read my external chat. It's like I can see the center screen, but there's no side chat there. That's really weird. So please know I appreciate each of you for coming out. I appreciate each of my panel members. And those of you who want links to their Steemit or YouTube channels, it's in the description box below. Love you guys. Thanks for stopping by.